Under the Old Covenant, we read an account of the daughters of Zelophehad. This man had 5 daughters and no sons. He had no sons to pass on his inheritance to, his land allotment to. God does not leave it there where the daughters are left bereft of being a benefactor or having an inheritance. God clearly shows us that when a male is not there, then the female is to take possession of that land, to keep the land, the message, the ministry in that family. This is why they were discouraged from marrying those outside of their nation, outside of their tribe, because the inheritance was to be kept in the family. And so here we see a case of gender justice, where God shows us when a male is not there, the female is allowed to step in and to possess that inheritance. Keep that in mind. Blessings abound. As much as things have continued from generation to generation, from over the course of 1,000 years, God shows us in the Bible account dealing with the daughters of Zelophehad that when a male is not there, a male is not present, that inheritance of land is not given to one outside of the family, but that the female can step in, claim the inheritance, and keep the family name going, or keep that family inheritance in the family. This tells us that God will use the female, that God will yield to a female taking leadership and ownership when the time is of necessity. When is that time? When males are not standing up and males are not speaking. Now, God will use a woman. Ask Deborah. God will use you, woman, to get his will done. It's more than the male or the female. It's about them doing the will of God. Blessings abound. What name did you name your child? What purpose does their name carry? 5 daughters of Zelophehad. If you know the meaning of their names, the first daughter's name meant disease, the second daughter moving, the third daughter partridge, the fourth daughter queen, and the 5th daughter favor. So God takes these daughters, even in the meaning of their names, from a place of distance, a place of disease, a place of not being strong enough, male enough to inherit something, to being one given favor. 5 daughters, the number of grace. Favor. God grants favor to the female when the male is absent of presence and absent of purpose. Blessings abound. Very interesting that in dealing with the 5 daughters of Zelophehad, that the situation was brought to Moses, the man of law. However, the man of law did not know what to do. And so he took it to the Lord, took it to God. So here you have the grace of 5 females and the law of Moses, along with the priesthood, along with the congregation, going before God to reconcile this situation. Anytime you have law and grace together, the winner will always be grace. And this is what happens, that when the law and grace got together before the Lord said, the daughters are right. And I want to thank God that even in 2025, when the males are not standing up, speaking as they should, that God still calls on the daughters to speak a word in season. Blessings abound. Interesting that God shows us in his word that Moses did not have the answer. Moses did not have the answer concerning the 5 daughters of Zelophehad. Well, that makes sense, because if Moses had the answer, then the law would have been solidified in having the answer to grace. Law will never have the answer to grace. And so Moses did not have the answer. And he had to take grace, the 5 daughters, to God. And what did God do? He said, grace is right. The daughters are right. And so when it comes to the law and the grace of God, God has us to understand that you must move from law to grace. Blessings abound. Understand that if the males are not present or not speaking up, or are not covering a wife and the children in a home, then God empowers the female to take leadership, take possession, and cover that land, cover the children. We are not to allow the absence or non-existence of a male to cause that female to suffer. She must stand up for her rights. She must stand up and be noticed. She must take possession of the land, not for herself. It's a kingdom thing. She must follow the plan of God, the purpose of God for her life and the lives of her family members. Blessings abound. God is just. Therefore, when presented with a situation that is unjust, like how the 5 daughters of Zelophehad were unable to gain their father's inheritance, that's unfair. Their father had not sinned like those of Korah's family. Their father had not spoken out against leadership, against Moses, against Aaron. The father did die in sin, but it was not that sin. Why is that important? Because grace is about sin approaching the presence of God for forgiveness. So sin is not perfect. It needs to be forgiven. Lord cannot forgive sin. Only God's grace will. Blessings abound. One of the daughters is known as a partridge because the partridge bird is known for nesting on an egg, but that egg does not give birth. And this was their state before grace, before God spoke to the situation. They were like a partridge bird, and they were on the land, but not given anything. Yet when they came before God, God deemed them worthy as a queen of the land, and gave them favor, the favor of a queen, and gave them the land. Wait on God, and God will have his will to be done in your life. Blessings abound. The Old Testament continues to foreshadow, be a schoolmaster to teach us the heart of God concerning women. God does not tell the daughters of Zelophehad that they need to go home or go to their father's brothers for the answer. None of that. When the situation is taken to God, God says the daughters are right. They have a right to possess what males only possess. They have a right to inherit what only males up until this point were allowed to inherit. If that's back thousands of years ago, imagine what it is today. As time progresses, there is more equality. Why? Because it's about them, the male and the female. They are one. And so we're getting back to the beginning, that God made them one before sin, and they had equal time and proximity in the presence of God. Blessings abound.